resume sweepstakes. That's a good prize. Thanks for everybody for listening in. Sleep is how much sleep are you getting? Enough sleep? That's a great college question. I haven't been in college for a long time. I entered in 1987, so it's been a long time. But sleep was a really important issue to me. Um, so what we're going to do for our session is first understand what is a good night's sleep. Then we'll ask everybody to maybe write in your chat thing of how much sleep do you normally get. Then we'll look at a couple reasons why sleep is important. And then most importantly, we'll look at some strategies to improve your sleep patterns, or if you have great sleep patterns, to keep them going. And so, what is a good night's sleep? Right, that's the first thing. 7 to 8 hours is a typical good night's sleep for an adult. But right now in college, we're not adults. We're trying to become adults, and we're very busy. You're very busy with school, you might work, or you might be in athletics, and so you're a very busy person. So at Stanford, they suggest, based on their research for many decades, that it needs to be at least 8 hours, if not more. Perhaps some of you are, familiar with athletes, because sleep is a vital topic. Someone like Tom Brady might suggest he needs to sleep 10 to 11 hours a night. He probably has more time than everybody else on this chat forum to schedule his day and his life to sleep 10 to 11 hours. But for full recovery, being super active, sleep is important. So how much sleep do college students really get? At the University of Georgia, based on their survey of their own student population, students report just 6 to maybe 7 hours of sleep a night. And the key thing is you don't make it up, right? If you sleep 6 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, 4 hours, none of us go to sleep then for 24 straight hours to try to make up lost time. And so let's think about our own sleep patterns. If you guys don't mind to log in, think about the last few nights. How many hours, if you type in the chat room area there, how many hours do you normally get? You get 5, 6, 7. I know students with whom I've worked on a college cheer team at Texas Tech, maybe 4. They have late night practices and early morning school. They might sleep from 3 to 7, which isn't very long. I don't know if I can see the chat thing. Is anybody want to chime in on how much sleep they normally get? Give it a second.
Mark, it looks like some people are asking about 5 hours, 8 hours, but it's broken up into 2 or 3 times or short hours.
Okay, well then this is the right session for them. And so why is sleep important, right? And so the obvious one is sleep is essential for life. And most likely none of us on this chat forum or anybody we've ever known has died a terrible death of sleep deprivation. But that could happen. It's very rare. And so we don't need to really worry about that. We need sleep to function properly. Everybody here knows, or perhaps you don't know, things that happen when you don't sleep enough. Your judgment is impaired. It's very difficult to concentrate. Your reaction time, your movement time becomes slower. And thus, right there, you become dangerous to yourself and to others if you're driving a car. So if you're sleep deprived, judgment, poor concentration, slower reaction time, that makes just driving a car dangerous. I rode my bicycle on campus at the University of Illinois as an undergrad. You got to make a lot of decisions with all those people, and I'm sure everybody knows. So it's dangerous to be a bicycle rider. And then with your schoolwork, it's with impaired judgment, concentration. Right there, you know your schoolwork is going to be worse off. It can't get better if you're sleep deprived. And so I think what happens is, the lack of sleep then becomes a major source of stress because your schoolwork suffers, your mood suffers, and we all know when we get moody, then our relationships suffer. And so it's been a long time since I lived in a dorm. A lot of people, small space, difficult sometimes to sleep, and then with a poor mood, a worsening mood because of lack of sleep, because of schoolwork suffering, then all of a sudden relationships become very stressful. And the solution is more sleep, but how do we get that sleep? That's what's important. I think there are probably 5 good points that we can make and discuss here for the next part of our session. Number 1 is stay clear of caffeine is number 1. And so what happens is you're out, you have pizza, or somebody delivers a pizza, and there's a Coke sitting there, so you drink a Coke, right? Or you drink a tea. And so all of a sudden you start to stay up later just because you're doing stuff and something just happens to be there. Alcohol might make you sleep early, but it's going to wake you up later and disrupt your sleep. So any type of foods, drinks that can impair your sleep, you need to avoid. And a good suggestion sometimes is you stop caffeine by 3 o'clock. Right? You don't let it go on the rest of the day. Another great tip is simply to stick to a routine. And routines in college are difficult to stick with at times. The routine you might have is just your class schedule. But getting to sleep is at a certain time, to stay in bed and to get up when you should get up. It's a great way to get yourself the sleep that you need to be productive. When I travel a lot overseas, sleep becomes messed up because the time zone changes, and I turn on a recording that we'll talk about in a second, a way to calm your mind, and I make sure I stay in bed at least for 8 hours. I get up, there's a time code on it, and if it's not 8 hours, I go lie back down to make sure, even if I'm not sleeping, I'm getting in a routine that I can stick with that's going to be healthy. Another great tip is simply using some type of mind-body relaxation thing. That's what I just said. I like just white noise or a fan noise. I think a fan noise helps me fall asleep. You can also use some progressive muscle relaxation tips to squeeze your hands and relax and release the tension. Those things work really, really well. The last tip is really making your room sleep ready, sleep friendly. And how do you make your room sleep friendly, especially if you live with others? Well, one, you need to set boundaries and rules with others to make sure that everybody knows it's time to go to bed, and to agree upon a time to go to bed. Keeping the temperature of the room cool really helps. And again, that can be a struggle depending on your roommate. If you have a roommate that gets up, or there's noise because it's a dorm or an apartment complex, it's good to use earplugs. Again, some type of white noise background. I turn on YouTube. I turn on awesome fan noise, or I type awesome fan noise, and the same one comes up every time, and I hit play. And then it comes to technology. Technology is a real killer of sleep because we get engaged. It's not because technology's bad. It's not because Instagram's bad. It's not because Twitter's bad. It's because then all of a sudden you start to get tired. You lay down. You pick up your phone, and something engages your mind, and you become awakened, right? And then you start piddling around on your Instagram or email or whatever it is, and then you just keep staying awake. And then your sleep gets disrupted because eventually you still have to get up. You still have to get up. You still need to go to class or go to work. And so I think that the last key of that whole thing about making your bedroom, a sleep-friendly zone is you got to turn off the electronics. It has to be a complete off, or the phone turned over and not on vibrate or anything that makes noise, because simply the light flashing is a bad deal. The light wakes you up, you look at it, it's a funny text from a friend, and friends do send funny texts, but all of a sudden that gets you engaged, and then you're not sleeping. So those are the things I had for our session, and the exciting part is to hopefully answer some questions.
Thank you very much for that presentation, Mark. Again, everyone on the line, if you have a question for Mark, please use the chat box, and we'll be sure to get your question answered. Mark, I'm showing that there are no questions at this time, but want to give you the opportunity. Are there any points that you wanted to kind of readdress or readdress or expand upon further?
Well, I think that the key is for young people and for old people. I'm an old person. I like my phone. Is turning off the electronics. You know, it's probably turning off the electronics is number one. Staying away from caffeine, spicy foods, eating late at night with friends. I think is probably number 2 on the list. And then 3 is setting those boundaries with roommates, you know, in a dorm or in an apartment complex, so that everybody can get the sleep that they need and then they deserve, so they can be at their very best.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm showing that there are no questions at this time. However, if questions come through in my spiel here I'm about to do in a little bit. Oh, it looks like we have a question.
Awesome.
This question comes from Jonathan. Jonathan asks, is it optimal to exercise or stretch before trying to go to sleep?
That's a great question, because I'm an exercise psychologist by trade, Jonathan, and it is individualized. If light exercise or stretching it helps you, then you do it. There's not an optimal time for the exercise to sleep relationship. It's a very individual relationship, because people of different fitness levels will have different reactions. And so the typical large-scale research, meta-analyses over decades, you know, the only thing that really shows a relationship with sleep is bright light, could be inside bright light exercise or outdoor exercise with the sun, seems to help people get a little bit more sleep, regardless of when they do it.
Mark, thank you very much for that response to that question. Our next question comes in from Gina Marie from Long Island, where she asks, is it wise or do you get more sleep when you drink alcohol?
You do not. You might think you do, but you do not. You might, again, fall asleep quickly or seemingly more quickly, but your sleep patterns will be disrupted, and no matter how long you think you've laid in bed, it will not be good sleep. So the answer is, do not drink alcohol as a way to sleep.
Great. Thank you very much for the response to that question, Mark. Are there any other questions on the line? Please use the chat box to ask your questions, Mark, and we'll be sure to get that answer. Showing there are no other questions coming in at this time. However, folks on the line. Oh, we do have another question coming in. Is it better to go to sleep earlier than later?
That's a great question. It is best to go to sleep when it suits your body the best in your schedule. I think in general, overall, again, general statements sometimes are good, sometimes are bad. 10:30 is time to hit the lights and go to bed. It seems rare, right? Unless you have if you have a job at work at 5 in the morning, then you're going to push your sleep back, earlier in the evening. But in the general sense of most lives, if you're not doing that, that 10:30 is the time to hit the hay and turn out the lights and cool down the room and get some good sleep.
Mark, thank you for the response to that question. It looks like we have more questions coming in. Our next question comes from Gabriel. When Gabriel was on track and an athlete in college, he would feel fatigue and tired early. Should he have gone to sleep as soon as he felt this fatigue?
Oh, that's a good question. There's nothing wrong with going to sleep early, right? There's shoulda, coulda, woulda. There's nothing wrong with doing it. I mean, if it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, that might be a bit early, but that's called a nap. I think if you're tired, you go to bed. That's I'm a parent of 6 kids. You know, when somebody's having a bad moment, and you go, "Well, you're really tired, honey," and they go, "I am," and then the response is, "Then just go to bed," and it all seems to work out. When you're tired, it's time to go to bed.
Mark, our next question comes in from Wendy. She's asking about sleep aids. What is your stance and position on that? And is there caution for over-reliance on those?
Well, I'm not a medical professional, and so as a professor in kinesiology, and then you know, as being a parent, that slips in heavily. You don't want to be hooked on medication to go to sleep. I think my best advice right now is that you go see your doctor, and ask your doctor about what you're taking. If you're not taking something, or if you're thinking of taking something, to see exactly what those side effects could be, or reliance upon the medication. What happens down the road? I think seeing your physician, going to the student health center at your university is my best and advice I hope you take.
Mark, thank you very much for that
Yeah.
pragmatic response to that question. I'm showing that are all the questions that we have for this evening from folks on the line. Again, if you have questions, please use the chat box to ask your questions, Mark, and we'll be sure to get that answered. Mark, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your schedule and hosting this invaluable session to students around sleep and the importance of it. And for everybody on the line, thank you very much for taking the time out of your schedule and joining us this evening. As mentioned earlier, if you are looking to register and enter to win our Resume Makeover Sweepstakes, where we'll be giving 5 lucky winners the opportunity to have their resume and cover letter made over, as well as work with a career coach to refine their interview skills and techniques, you will receive a post-event evaluation survey concluding this session, which will be sent to the email address that you used to register. Simply complete that post-event evaluation survey, and that will be your ticket to enter in our Resume Makeover Sweepstakes. Mark, are there any other things that you would like to add in before we disconnect?
To finish on my pragmatic answer, any issues that you have that bother you, or you're having trouble sleeping, go to your health center. You've already paid for it. You have paid in tuition to walk in that health center and get some help.
Pragmatism seems to be the common theme around this common issue around sleep. Thank you very much, Mark, for your insight into this. And for everybody on the line, again, thank you for taking the time and joining us. That will conclude this evening's session. Again, thanks everyone for joining. And Mark, a special thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thanks a ton.